This week, we're talking about Redfall, Xbox expansion cards, Sony shutting down a first-party studio, and more. So let's just go ahead, together, as a people, and check it out! And welcome to another sensational Sunday. I'm Mike and I'm back to talk about the gaming news. But we can't talk about the gaming news without sometimes talking about games. And one game that just released is Redfall. So a few weeks ago we talked about how it was launching without the 60 FPS performance mode on Xbox and it will come later. And basically I said that sucks, but I hope it doesn't give people a bad first impression of the game, especially with Microsoft severely lacking exclusives right now. Well, it turns out that the frame rate was the least of the concerns for this game, as it generally has performance and graphical issues. I usually just play the game anyway and form my own opinion, and eventually I will, but the performance seems real rough right now. So I'm gonna wait a few patches before I try it out. The reason I mention all that is because Phil Spencer, the head of Xbox, has spoken about the issues with the games. He is taking full responsibility for the issues, and he basically said that he wants to give the studios the room to be creative, but Microsoft should have stepped in and offered support to Arcane when they took over Bethesda. He also responded to comments about doing a delay. He basically said doing like a 3-month delay wouldn't have helped that much with the final product, and basically they're committed to getting the game back on track and launching the performance mode on Xbox. He also pointed out that they had to do similar support with Grounded and Sea of Thieves, that they both had issues when they came out. And there's also another issue with Bethesda support, apparently thinking that the game is Fallout 76 when people submit support tickets. Based on the screenshot I saw in the article from the support ticket, it looks like they were also telling people on PC to check the system requirements. And I'm gonna tell you up front, the performance I've seen, them requirements ain't gonna help that much. The biggest potential issue that Microsoft is facing is having another Xbox generation without many strong first-party titles. This was a game that was heavily promoted and was a big deal for the Xbox, so for it to come out and have this many issues is a big hit to Microsoft right now. They still have Starfield coming out, but if that game disappoints as well, I feel that they're really going to be in trouble, especially with the stock issues with the PS5 and Xbox finally clearing up. Now that people have a choice instead of pretty much buying whatever's on the shelf, this is where Microsoft really needs to deliver and get people to want to buy an Xbox. So hopefully they can get Redfall back on track and Starfield isn't plagued with a bunch of issues at launch. And we should find out more about Starfield on June 11th, as Microsoft has announced their next 2 events. So Microsoft is teasing some new games in a direct on June 11th, but haven't gone into specifics on what's going to be there. Then shortly after that, they're going to be having a direct for Starfield specifically, which makes sense. I'm sure they'll want to continue the hype for that game, especially after this whole Redfall thing. Personally, I'm more interested with the direct for the new games. Like I mentioned in the last story, they really just need games for the Xbox. Even if it's a smaller game like they had with Hi-Fi Rush, anything to get people to the platform will be good for them. As far as Starfield, I'm excited for it, but I think I've seen enough of that game already to say, yes, I'm interested, and I'll just wait to play it when it comes out at this point. But let me know how you feel down below about the Starfield Direct in the comments. There is another issue if Microsoft releases a bunch of games though. That Seagate expansion card is still pretty expensive. So I talked previously about the rumor that Western Digital was going to release an official Xbox expansion card that was cheaper, and hopefully it will cause Seagate to lower their prices since they've been the only ones making the official upgrade solution for the Xbox Series since launch. Well, Seagate has officially reduced the price of the Xbox expansion cards. So the 512 gig will now cost $89.99, the 1 terabyte will be $149.99, the 2 terabyte will be $269.99. The Western Digital card hasn't been announced officially or come out yet, but the rumor is it's going to be $179.99. So Seagate is basically already undercutting the price by $30 at this point. I think we are likely to see that Western Digital one soon. Overall, the prices aren't great in comparison to slapping a standard SSD in a PS5. Like I mentioned last time we covered this, you can find a 2 terabyte PS5 compatible drive for less than the price of the 1 terabyte even after this price reduction. I think the best thing to come out of this is the 512 dropping to $89.99, so at least someone that buys a Series S can go up to 1 terabyte in total without basically buying a Series X. I'm still hoping that Western Digital is competitive with their prices if the rumors are true, and it continues to cause the prices of these cards to decrease because they're still a little bit overpriced, but at least it's getting better. Alright, I think I've had enough Xbox talk for one episode. Let's go over to Sony for our final story. So a couple weeks ago, Sony announced that they acquired Firewalk Studios, who's working on a PS5 multiplayer exclusive game. But sometimes Sony Studios cometh, and then Sony taketh away other studios. that didn't sound as profound as I wanted it to. So Sony has announced that they've shut down one of their first-party studios, Pixel Opus. They were established in 2014, and according to the Game Rant story, they developed games for PS3, PS4, and Vita. They only released 2 games, Entwined and Concrete Genie. They had a game in development for PS5 that's now been canceled. I'll be honest, I hadn't really heard of this studio or the games that they released prior to reading the story, but it always sucks for people to lose their job. I'll be talking more about that later this week. But this does make sense with the trek that Sony's been on with these big showpiece games and also the amount of first-party titles they release now. I think that a studio that releases smaller games and does support for other games for Sony could be successful, but I feel like the games, if they release any, have to be at least moderately successful, or Sony isn't going to want to spend the time or money to keep that studio open. Either way, I hope everyone from that studio is able to find work elsewhere in the industry. And I'm going to find a bed and get out of here. But let me know what your thoughts are on Redfall, and if you tried it, and if you enjoyed this video, then make sure to tell a friend, tell a coworker, like, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell notification to be notified when I drop a video or a live stream. And always do at least 2 things at the same time. We out.